research review. This one, I like it because it's like got xssdoctor in it somehow magically. And it's like, whoa, man, I didn't even know that could happen. So, it's a Starstrike blog. It should be interesting. I haven't looked at anything here. All I know is that's a crazy. I like it. Good. Like, if this disappoints me, I'm gonna be disappointed. So, let's see what this is. So this is like a research collision that Kieran and JD had. But okay. Dude, I don't know. I'm so excited. It's such a cool crossover episode where it's like, I didn't even know we could have this. Like, I didn't know that the IP holders for xssdoctor and the IP holders for Starstrike could even like come to. I like the image. I should have been able to predict that this could happen, but it just never crossed my mind. It's like when you mix like Nutella and then like I don't know, something insane like that would actually be good with it. Like, I don't know, man, like orange creamsicle. I think that'd be nasty, but maybe it would be good. All right, so I gotta read this. Achieving deterministic prompt injection through client-side feedback loops. All right, about the author. xssdoctor is a clinical cardiologist and a well-regarded bug bounty hunter. His focus is on front-end vulnerabilities and client-side hacking. He has published research on JavaScript obfuscation and client-side path traversal, among other topics. Wow. Wait, what's the link? Is it his Twitter? Nice. Dude, yeah, true. Understated. Introduction. Chatbots are fantastic client-side bug bounty targets. True. There are a lot of moving parts. There is often HTML rendering or Markdown, or something weird in between. And payloads are deliverable by design. There's even a baked-in gadget in the form of prompt injection. The problem is that prompt injection is notoriously finicky. If you're lucky, it works 80% of the time. In this blog, I'm going to walk through a novel technique to make prompt injection deterministic through client-side feedback loops. Here's how I found it. So just spamming the shit out of everything with like multiple. Alright, well, alright, how's it gonna make, no, that wouldn't really make prompt injection deterministic, because the model would have to be. Man, I don't like this phrasing, because I feel like, unless there's something I haven't, we'll see what this is. The target. It was the third day of looking through Minified.js, and my head hurt from banging it against the wall. I was about to quit when I came across this line of code. Oh, that's a great message, listener. Yo, I'm in. Can we have this? What are these? I don't know what these are, but I like that. Can we have... Alright. So yeah, two things jumped out immediately. First, no origin check. The listener accepts messages from any source. Second, data from an incoming message goes straight into document.write. I don't know how the arguments of document.write work. I didn't know it could take that many. Also, I should probably... Why don't I know anything? Okay. Oh, it concatenates them. Okay, it takes n arguments. I feel like I've seen this before and totally forgotten. Okay, so it just concatenates all those effectively. Nice. And so it's tainted. Right. To achieve this, I would just have to send a malicious post message to the frame right after it was created, but before the main page sent its post message. This is a classic post message race condition, and in my experience, it's almost always possible. That's how you know that xssdoctor wrote this. And then there we go. Look at that. That's the race, and it's like, are we gonna get to send them something funny and make them render it? The answer had better be yes. Okay. An aside, I'm going to pause for a moment and tell you guys how I approach a post message race condition. I start with two HTML pages. The first page, first.html, has a button. When clicked to the second page, second.html opens, and first.html is redirected to the victim page. Second.html, which we control now, has a window reference to the victim page in the form of window.opener. Window.opener is, in my opinion, the best window reference since it persists across redirects. It is also a great way to send post messages to third-party iframes because window.opener.frames is available even if the two windows are from different origins. Yep. Another benefit of this is that the attacker window, the window that you control, ends up in front. Why does this matter? Well, it turns out if you're trying to exploit a race condition by sending thousands of post messages quickly, windows that are out of focus or throttled. Yeah, the behavior is so weird. I've like experienced that in the past with HTML5 games where like you tab out and the cursed loop is still running and it gets really janky. I think it's gotten better, but I'm sure, yeah, it definitely helps when you're trying to spam post messages to be focused. So yeah, there we go. We've got our setup, pretty normal setup. Let me walk you through these payloads. You send the first victim.html. On the page there is a button. Or you send the victim first.html. Yeah, this needs to be there since window.open requires user interaction after the button. I just always set like an entire window click handler. I don't even throw a button on there. I just like literally have it say click anywhere, and then you click anywhere. I don't use buttons. Buttons, that buttons are a small thing that they have to press. Just make the whole page on click. That's a turbo tip. Wait, those aren't revealed yet. Wait, is that one so there's like turbo tips and then there's like turbo theories. And I think that one might be a turbo theory, but those are a project I'm going to unveil later, maybe, if I don't scrap it. All right. So yeah. So you need the like mouse click to get the window.open without being blocked. After the button is pressed, two things happen. Second HTML opens and the first page redirects to the victim page. Yep, and then it can reach back over via opener. Second.html has a script that continuously sends post messages every 10 milliseconds. Find if you make this any quicker, the browser may crash. That'd be bad. It is important to put each of these post messages into a try-catch block because otherwise the code will stop when the first post message fails in case the DOM is not loaded yet. Remember, the page sending the post messages needs to be in the foreground, otherwise it will be throttled and you will lose the race. Me thinking about where my wildcard cert is so that I can have multiple origins. Back to our bug. Looking back at our code, I realized that the post message listener wasn't on the main page but in a third-party iframe on the page. The iframe was created whenever the LLM was asked to render HTML. The page would create an iframe to a third-party site, iframe.target.com, that it owned. Nice. I love iframe.target.com. The iframe would then set up a post message listener, and the main page would send a post message to the frame with the HTML that would be rendered with document.write. The root cause of this was simple. It was a security mechanism. The main site didn't want to render HTML, and they thought they were safe by creating a sandbox iframe to a third-party site, but they were wrong. You see, the third-party domain was the same every single time the site rendered HTML in an iframe, iframe.target.com, so if an attacker could control a frame in one page with cross-site scripting, that frame could communicate with every other frame on every other page that is open. The attacker could read the data from those other iframes while assuming you have a window reference, and also write to those iframes. With this in mind, I edited second.html to send the post messages to all frames on the page. Yeah. Ah, man. Why is that capital? Did somebody highlight? No. Hello? That's... What happened? Why is the JavaScript invalid? Why is the how did this? Okay, interesting. So that's a lowercase f, but that's also a lowercase f. So I think, what is that, a CSS highlighting? What a diversion! What a dumb diversion. No, that's a capital 4. So how did this happen? Is it, alright, whatever. It's so irrelevant. Whoops. Very funny, though. Very funny to dig into that. Alright. So, yes. This is, I think this summarizes my hacking experience, is just being like, that's not right, and then trying to figure out what's going on. But we're not hacking, we're reading. We're reviewing research. So yeah, so this is spamming the listener, trying to win the race and drop a cool script tag, which, nice, I like that, let's do that. Here, instead of sending the post message to window.opener, we were sending it to the first 10 frames on the page. You can use frames.length, right? If they exist. The try-catch block will still protect, well, there could be oh man, that's so cursed, that the fact that there could actually be a time to check to time of use difference at frames.length at loop start versus when you're actually not relevant. I use frames.length when I'm frame blasting. What am I... Alright. Yeah, so the try-catch will catch the thing, which, yeah, it's wrapped in a set timeout. It's fine. You don't need that. Yeah. Oh, it would kill the loop, yeah. That's true. Okay, right, yes. Getting the frame onto the page. Most LLMs have a built-in delivery mechanism. The conversation can be shared with others. However, the problem in this case was that the frame was not rendered automatically. If the page was sent to the victim, they would still have to click preview in order to render the HTML. This would destroy my bug chain, especially since the victim window is in the background. Oh wait, do I know exactly what this is? I'm not going to think about it. But there is a second possible delivery mechanism, prompt injection. If I could force the user to prompt the LLM to create the malicious iframe, my chain would be saved. That's where the queue parameter comes in. This query parameter can be found on most modern chatbots. It is, in essence, prompt injection as a feature. The purpose behind it is clear. If one user has a prompt and wants to share it with another user, it shares a link such as chatbot.com. What is bark made of? Good question. Not food. Another user can see the results of the prompt. Yeah. This particular chatbot used the queue parameter in the most insecure way. The victim would actually run the prompt within their session. So with that, I updated my first.html file accordingly. Okay, wow. Yeah, sometimes they'll do like limited tool call or like no tool call on like the first message or the queue message. But it sounds like this one was pretty gnarly. For my prompt injection, I simply asked the LLM to make me an HTML page about apples. Yeah, that's how you know you found an xssdoctor LLM canary. The problem is, this only worked about half the time. Oh man, I've heard this story. I could have reported this as is as an attack that would work 50% of the time, but then I remembered how much minified JavaScript I'd looked through to get to this point, so I couldn't settle for a low. Yeah, real. Man. The insight. Let's step back for a moment and think about our position. We have the victim window open in the background. We have XSS on an iframe in the window. We also have our attacker window at the foreground and have complete control over that. We have the window.opener relationship between the windows. With these gadgets in place, we can always do and just hard nav the opener and then count the frames. Is that what we're doing? There we go. There's the prompt injection. This would reload the background page and resend the prompt injections. Now we only need one more thing, a way to communicate a failure state to the attacker window. Why? Can't you just read? In this case, wouldn't it? Can't we frame count here? I don't know. In other words, when the prompt injection fails, we need the victim window to somehow tell the attacker window that it had failed. I realized that instead of communicating a failure state, I could communicate a success state. Yeah, that works as well if you're doing like out-of-band signaling to a remote server. The XSS payload sent to the iframe could include a post message listener that communicated success to my attacker page. Okay, you could also do that. That'd be way easier. If the message did not arrive within 1 minute, the attacker page could reload the victim page and retry the prompt injection. So is it that it's generating... It is creating a frame, but it doesn't include the content you wanted? Because I feel like you could just, like, frame count, right? Is that going to be stated? But as I was making this POC, I realized something. The victim page had no window reference to the attacker page. Oh, this is the dual opener. In the way I had set up the POC, the victim page had a window reference to the attacker page via window.opener, but the victim page could not reference the attacker page in any way. As a result, the iframe had no way to send post messages back to my attacker page. A day later, I had an epiphany. I could make the two pages windows.opener to each other. Yeah, this rules. But yeah, so this is a nice trick where you don't need a click event to open to a named window in the group because it'll like nav it. So there we go. So they're friends. So you've got the POC, and there we go. It's a named window. And then does this guy set his own name? He needs a name, right? Because, like, how's he going to get opened to, right? This is the... Okay, that's... Yeah. There we go. Yep, so there we go. That makes sense. So there we go. Yeah, they get to hug each other. First.html names itself with window.name equals booyakasha, and then opens the attacker window. Second HTML then calls window.open with a prompt injection using that window.name as the second argument, redirecting the first window to the victim domain with a prompt injection. Yeah, so now they both have references to each other. Now the two windows have a window reference to each other. Each window is an opener of the other. Yeah, that rules. This means that the vulnerable iframe can send a post message beacon back to the attacker page, signaling success. On the attacker page, I set up a timer programmed to go off in 10 seconds. If the timer goes off, the victim page is refreshed and the prompt injection is resent. This will continue over and over until the attacker page receives a signal from the iframe that XSS has been achieved. Instead of sending the payload directly, I think it's always good practice to fetch an external script if possible. I love that. It's like, man, I had a metaphor for it earlier today, actually, when I was talking to xssdoctor about a really cool XSS that involved just a really silly payload to reach this, like, all right, we took the script home, we've got it. We've got the code execution back in our bedroom. Like So I sent a script tag which grabs a JavaScript file from my attack server and runs it. The first thing I served was this. And so there we go. Yeah, look at that. I love it. I'll usually just have like an alert origin on my like stage loaded script. This is the success beacon, and then I'll make it whatever it needs to be. But that's like usually my like please load and execute the escalation. Okay, so here's where we are. We have XSS on a third-party iframe running in the context of the user's account. We can pop that XSS regularly and deterministically due to our feedback loop. But so what? Who cares about that iframe? Well, it turns out that anytime the chatbot renders HTML, it creates the same iframe to the same domain. We can exfiltrate everything from every rendered HTML document on the victim's account. Man, shout out xssdoctor for writing this up and letting like them all have it, because I like this bug. And I think did he write something up about it for CTBB? I can't remember. We actually have all of the gadgets in place to do this. All we have to do is redirect the attacker page to target.com after the success beacon arrives, and we have gold. Yep, so at that point, you've got your fun code execution, and then, yeah. At that point, you have XSS on the iframe running in the background window. We can use that to read all of the data in the same iframe in the foreground window, yeah. So, as the victim clicks through the app, uses it regularly, that iframe is capturing all the information. It can even inject information into that iframe. Yeah, so it's like that guy gets popped and fully compromised, and then he's watching that guy who then redirects off of attacker site onto target site, and then if victim just clicks through it and clicks on their stuff, that guy is going to read it all because he can see it all and he's polling for it. So we have POCs, and look at that. Oh, there we go. We're using frames.length. And this guy is, he's only checking every, wow, okay. I would check more often than that. And yeah. Should this be wrapped in a try-catch? Because it's gonna, or are they always same origin? Okay, that would make sense. So let's recap. First.html has a button. I don't do buttons. The victim clicks the button, and second.html opens in the foreground. First.html then redirects itself to the victim page with the prompt injection, creating the iframe about 50% of the time. Second.html starts blasting the iframe with post messages, winning the race. If second.html does not receive a beacon from the post message in 10 seconds, it refreshes the background page and retries the prompt injection. Yeah, that rules. If it does not receive the beacon, it redirects itself to the chat bot target.com. Or if it does, once it's like we've got script execution over in that guy in the other window. Nice. The victim starts to browse the site as usual. Once the iframe is injected, it first sends the signal that the injection has taken place, then it scans the other page continuously for iframes that it can read. Once it finds one, it exfiltrates all the information on the page to an exfiltration server. Finally, I submitted this bug and was awarded $4,000. Nice. Glad they paid it and weren't super mean. That seems reasonable. Given the context. Conclusion. Most of the gadgets and bug chains described in this article are well known. However, I have not seen previous research using client-side feedback loop to improve the reliability of prompt injection. Oh man. Have I done something like this? Let me think about that. This was achieved here using post message. However, if you do not have full control of the victim page, you still have options. For example, many prompt injection vulnerabilities involve data exfiltration via image tags. I can envision a scenario where the attacker prompts the LM to create the malicious tag, yup, exfiltrating data to the attacker server. The server would also be serving the attacker page and may communicate with the page via WebSocket, yup. If the server does not receive the image tag within a period of time, the WebSocket alerts the page, which resends the prompt. Yeah, so like out-of-band signaling with a remote server. I've had to do out-of-band signaling with a remote server for certain client-side attacks, but it's never been for LLM reasons, I think. It was more like synchronization and like, I don't remember. It's annoying though. I hope you enjoyed this blog and technique. Until next time. So, alright, research review. Cool write-up. I'm going to ask the doc what the failure state looked like. Because like when the failure state... Oh, is the failure state just that you lost the post message race? Yeah, okay, that might be it. If the failure stays that yeah, that makes sense, okay. But couldn't you do that time-based? No, wait, that doesn't make sense. Oh, it is time-based, okay. Huh. Why not just, like, add an extra frame, and then you can count it and see if you hit it or not? The post-message signaling seems unnecessary here when I would like, because to me I'd be like, can we do frame counting, yes or no? And then the answer would be, I think so, right? Because like instead of sending a payload that pings you back, you send a payload that adds another frame, and then you watch it for frames, and if it doesn't get that frame added, I mean, it's like it doesn't matter here. I guess the posted message is kind of technically cleaner. That explains that. I would have been inclined to do frame counting and then post message, and then if neither of those would work, doing like full out of band signaling would kind of suck. And then if that isn't an option, there's actually really cursed things you can try to do if there's like a limited connect source with like, if it can hit if you can cause it to conditionally make requests to some like CDN domain and lead to like cache hits / misses on things, and then you can out of band grab that and see if it was a hit or that's not forbidden. That's a forbidden technique. I'm not gonna. I mean, I think some people have spoken, but it's a hard one to use, and it's like scraping the barrel for signaling. All right, research review stuff. Right. So, how does this generally apply to bug bounty? Yeah, this is a great client side chain. This is great. Just like I think a good sentence here. The main site didn't want to render arbitrary HTML, and they thought they were safe by creating a sandboxed iframe to a third-party site, but they were wrong. This is, yeah, like go play in the iframe jungle gyms, know the rules of the road, know how things need to be like set up for proper isolation, and then just like know how it works and then think about it. That's man. Where else can this be applied? Yeah, I like this signaling. Well, this double opener reference is nice. It's a really cool trick to do that because, yeah, you don't need a click event to open to a named window in the same group. So that's a very good trick that can be tricky if you're playing in an iframe jungle gym and you need to do crazy maneuvers. That's a good one. I don't know. I wouldn't have done that though. I probably wouldn't have thought of it, and I would have just like had a payload that let me see if it worked with frame counting. But that's because I like that, and then I wouldn't need to do that. Wait, how did that even get in there? Guaranteed though. Huh. Oh, I guess it only, yeah, if it wins, then it gets that, and then it talks to it. Okay, and so if it loses, it is still time based. Yeah, I would just do frame counting. Let's see. What further research should be done here? It's a good question. I'm not sure. Obviously, like it's always good to. It's always interesting to look at how HTML content gets rendered in these chat interfaces and if it's performed securely. So that's always like great attack surface there when they let you do that, and it's like it's sandbox, and it's like, is it actually sandbox? And sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes the answer is not really, man. And then you can try to like figure out, okay, well then what else gets rendered on this origin, or what post message listeners are in the parent that maybe I can escalate through. Can I have fun? Rating, I never know how to rate these things. I rate this opener out of opener, but they're both each other's opener. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I rate this window.opener.opener.opener.opener.opener.opener.opener.opener out of 10, and they're just looping between each other. Nice. Okay. Yeah. This is really, yeah. So I happen to have maybe heard this story, but it's a really good story, and it's actually good to sit down and look through it properly and see. Maybe I haven't heard it in a minute. And it's good to see the full review of like why things are the way they were. I remember he was talking about the double opener, and now I see why that was done. I'm gonna reach out about clarification and see if frame counting may have been able to simplify this. But the double opener trick is really cool. Cool. All right. Well, I would say this research qualifies as pretty sweet. It's fun client-side stuff and fun tricks you can go apply if you're ever in a situation like this where you're able to have that level of control but need to be able to, maybe reprompt inject until you get the result you want. That's very nice. I'll think about this in the future as I'm getting bullied by just rolling the dice on the computer until it hacks itself, and it's like, come on, man, like this usually works. I don't know. It can be trickier in some contexts when you don't have as much control, but it's a good thing to like, all right, is there a way I can like wrap this in such a way I can force it to try again if it fails? That's a good thought process, and I'm always happy to read xssdoctor research. So thanks for watching.